welcome to the Sports Box, where the only opinion that matters. It's right here. I am...
Aftershock. It's good.
I am Mike Galetta, a.k.a. Have It to Mike, accept no invitations, along with my partner, Brian, the Ranger of Tark. Brian, how the hell are you today?
I am phenomenal, sir. How are you?
Oh, I'm just living the dream over here. It's just that, you know, what could be better than talking Sports Box today?
Absolutely.
Today we're going to get into part one of our series about the fired coaches in the league, or coaches that were dismissed. Today we take a nice little stroll out to California and talk to a guy who's been on the show before, giving us a lot of feedback. We're bringing him back again. Let's bring back to the show and welcome Leo Rodriguez. Leo!
How's it going, Mike?
Oh, man, it's great. Living the dream out here in nice 20-degree weather. I know you're loving it out there in 80-degree weather, so we're on a tale of two cities.
Oh, yeah, we always got sunshine here.
Yeah, not in New Jersey, though. It's going to snow tomorrow, so we're a little pissed off about that. Anyway, let's get into it a little bit, Leo. We're going to talk about your Chargers. They dismissed Mike McCoy after I thought a good tender there. Unfortunately, the Chargers had a little setback this year. They got in a little dispute with Bosa, which we went over in the beginning of the year. What do you think, in your opinion, happened this year that they decided to go in a different direction?
I mean, honestly, everybody knows that the Chargers had an insane amount of injuries. So I kind of feel for Mike McCoy in the sense that he was working with a limited roster. But, I mean, really, if you ask me, the straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak, was that Browns game. I mean, to be the only team that lost to the Browns, I think that kind of secured Mike McCoy's firing when that happened.
It's funny, that game out here was, when we saw it on the schedule, me and Brian had brought it up, if the Chargers didn't lose to the Browns weren't winning the following week against the Steelers. So that was the game that the Browns could have a chance to win, and they, like you said, they pulled it off. So,
yeah.
To me, honestly, I think it was a shock. I think, like you said, it was a lot of injuries this year. I mean, maybe the Joey Bosa thing had something to do with it a little bit, how they were going back and forth. But, I mean, like I said, I don't know the reason why they got rid of him. But you're closer to the situation than we are out here, so.
Well, there was
yeah,
some,
I mean,
I was going to say, Leo, there was some speculation that I had heard that if the team was going to make a move and leave San Diego, where I guess they were going to either to Vegas or wherever they're going to go, that he wouldn't join them. Are you hearing anything to that effect, that this might be a precursor to an announcement that the Chargers are leaving San Diego?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, because one of the things they've talked about down here in San Diego is if the Chargers do make a move to Los Angeles, let's say, they've talked about just totally rebranding, getting a whole new name, and, you know, having a new head coach is kind of like a way to, you know, revamp that franchise, hopefully get the fans energized and excited about, you know, potentially what could be a whole new team.
Okay. Another question I had, kind of off the subject with the coach. I know we are talking about the coach a little bit, but there was also been talk that Philip Rivers had also said that he wasn't leaving San Diego if they were to move. Have you heard anything to that effect out there, and could that have affected anything?
I mean, Philip Rivers absolutely is a homer. He's got a lot of love for San Diego. A lot of his kids went to school here. You know, this has been his home for more than the past, 13, 14 years. Yeah. But to that effect, I still think, I mean, Philip Rivers ultimately, he's really a team player, so I think he wants to stay with the San Diego fans for his family, but ultimately I think he'll follow.
A question that I had for you coming into the show, and I thought about it long and hard, I actually looked up a little bit on it too, is, you know, Antonio Gates has been there for as long as I can remember, and last year, or actually 2 years ago, they brought in Ladarius Green to be the successor to him. Now, they moved up to get him. They supposedly put out a lot to get this kid, and he was going to be the next tight end. Well, all of a sudden now, Ladarius Green is gone, and they're going to sign the aging Antonio Green to another year. Could that have gone into the, you know, explanation of maybe them wanting to go in a different direction of being younger and not hanging on to guys in the veteran role to, you know, to kind of band-aid this team together?
Sorry, Mike, you broke up at the end. Could you say that again?
Yeah, I said with the departure of Ladarius Green and, you know, them signing Antonio Gates to one more year, could that have been the logic of, well, this coach doesn't want to go in a younger direction, he's trying to keep veterans to band-aid his team? Do you think that could have had anything to do with the decision to get rid of McCoy?
No, not necessarily. I think keeping Gates on was really mostly just a mentor move so that they could get Hunter Henry really oriented into our system. And to that effect, I think Hunter Henry really had a phenomenal season for a rookie.
No, absolutely. You know, and you brought up Phillip Rivers. This team's obviously going to go a different direction with the coach. You look at Phillip Rivers' contract. He's signed for another 3 more years. They're not cheap years at all. Their cap numbers of $20, $21, and $22 million.
Wow.
Yep.
Is he, at age 35, ready to do another round with a new coach and maybe a new offense, you know, a de-emphasis on Gates and a higher emphasis on Hunter Henry? I mean, even with Melvin Gordon's emergence, I mean, if this team does move, and you mentioned his allegiances to San Diego, the city, do you think that he may request to go somewhere else?
I don't think that he would request to go somewhere else, but I also kind of share that thought that you were saying. I mean, if we bring a new coach in, is that going to mean a whole revamping of the offense? Personally, I would actually like to see Ken Wisenhunt step up because, I mean, Rivers does well under Wisenhunt. They're familiar with each other. I think given that Rivers, you know, he probably has 3 solid years left in him, you know, give him a coach that he's familiar with. Give him a coach that he's comfortable with.
Okay. You look at the way we're talking to you and the way you're answering some of the questions, Leo. I'm taking it. Obviously, you think the McCoy move was a good move, and like you said, the Cleveland game I could see was the breaking point of a lot of people out in San Diego that've been Chargers fans for a while. Do you hear anything out there in the way of maybe some of the coaching staff being bumped up or anybody coming in that they have their eye on to look for this the new job?
Yeah. So surprisingly, there's really been no chatter about. You know, us promoting from within and giving that to Wisenhunt or Pagano. The biggest talk, though, without a doubt, is Mike Smith, the Buccaneers defensive coordinator, and Dave Taub, the chief special teams. And then, of course, somebody that everybody's after, Matt Patricia.
Yeah.
So those are really the 3 biggest names. I think it's actually all the people that they've looked at to fill that head coaching position are defensive coordinators, so you can kind of see that the Chargers are really starting to move away from having that offense-oriented team and really move more defensive.
It's funny, he brought up Matt Patricia. That name's been brought up, I think, every year for the past 5 years, but it's just a matter of if Matt Patricia wants to leave a situation like he does in the Patriots, but we will see.
You bring up a really good point, actually. I think I kind of know the way you're going to answer this question, but, you know, offense has never been a problem for the Chargers. Really, it's always been something that's been more of a defensive issue. And again, it's kind of a loaded question. When you have a guy like Rivers who's at the tail end of his career, and you have, you know, stars on your offense are higher in age. For, you know, if you just include Gates, just as the 2 of them, do you think that it makes sense to go with a new offensive coach, or is it somebody who can really place a new emphasis on the defense to try to really patch up a hole that I think's been on this team for as long as I can remember? That their defense has never really been one that would go overwhelm teams. I mean, you know, they were middle of the pack this year in their rankings, so nothing to write home about. But, you know, we made a joke in our picks for Week 7, the week that San Diego did lose to the Browns, that if you lose to the Browns, it's like soccer in England. You get relegated to the lower league. So, unfortunately, that's like, well, good for you. It's not going to happen. But I guess, do you have a preference or a thought as to whether they should go offensive or defensive with the mind of a new head coach in a new direction?
Yeah, I mean, in a perfect world, I would say we hire a defensive head coach and we keep Wisenhunt just to keep that familiarity within the offense. And being frank, the offense is pretty solid. I mean, we've seen teams, I mean, Denver 2 years ago, their offense was far from good. And that defense alone really pushed them. And when you look at our roster, I mean, there is a lot of young defensive talent. So if we're thinking about what's going to be the future of the team, I think it absolutely is defense. Because, I mean, 3 years from now, Rivers might be gone. And you know, finding a new quarterback is a big challenge in today's league.
I definitely think whoever comes in has to look for, they have to look to draft a quarterback now, because even though they do have 3 more years with Rivers, they're going to have to groom somebody, get somebody ready for the offense. And you know, who knows what's going to happen. Let me look at Tony Romo, what happened in Dallas with that whole move now. So I think the Chargers got to be ready for something. So next year and the year after that, with a new coach in line, do you see the Chargers, you know, rebuilding for 2 to 3 years with this, you know, obviously with the new offense they may put in, or the new, you know, the players and everything, or do you see kind of semi-quick turnaround where you bring some free agents and some veterans in, and you go from there?
I'm a little iffy about free agents because our last pickups really haven't been that great. We got a big contract. We're stuck with a huge contract with Joe Barksdale, Orlando Franklin, and those players really haven't been the money. So I would like to see us to continue to improve in the draft, and try to build a stronger team like that. Being what Tom Telesco has done in the draft lately, it's been great.
Well, here's an interesting point, Mike. I think I'm going to take an opposite side of you on this one. I do think that the quarterback who gives them the best chance to win is Phillip Rivers because he knows the players that are going to be on that team, regardless if you see some overturning of the roster. So, having said that, do you think, from your vantage point, Leo, that they should be looking in the draft for somebody who can help Phillip Rivers, who can make this team now, who can be an impact player now while Rivers is still there? Or do you take kind of the approach that Mike's thinking where maybe you draft the heir apparent, and that may not be a pick that helps this roster right now, but sets you up for something in the future, which is probably what Dallas was trying to do with Dak Prescott, but they got really lucky in what he ended up being. I don't think they thought he would be a player this year. Do you feel that they should look to pad the roster or look to replace the quarterback long term?
I think given how talented and how many points this offense still put up this past year, I think you really got to give Phillip Rivers one or two more chances at really making a run for it. I mean, I still really believe that if our offense, or at least our offensive unit, had stayed healthier, I mean, we would have had a shot at a wild card spot. So I think you really got to go for it. Roll the dice, maybe, draft a quarterback in the third, fourth round, and, hopefully he can be somebody that Phillip Rivers can groom, and then when his time is up, hopefully we get lucky.
So Mike McCoy ends his 4 years in San Diego at 27-37 with a .422 win percentage and 1 win in the playoff and 1 loss in the playoff. So not good enough for the San Diego fans out there and our man Leo Rodriguez. So unfortunately, Mike McCoy, they're out. I think Mike will coach again in the league. Maybe not this year, but I think he'll be back in the league again. So that's my feeling.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I think there's an underswell in the league right now to bring in guys that haven't been head coaches before. Yeah. You always seem to hear candidates every year that are not the traditional. I remember a time in the league where Bill Parcells always had a job, Mike Holmgren always had a job. They're guys that kind of went around different teams, but they always had a job. I think they're looking more now towards the new blood, if you will, fresh blood. That there's not a retread.
Yep. If you will. Very interesting. I think the San Diego Chargers are going to be a team we're going to be talking about in the offseason, about some of the moves they make, the coaches they bring in. It's going to be an interesting season out in San Diego. But again, I'd like to thank our San Diego correspondent, Leo Rodriguez, for doing a hell of a job as normal, pal. Thank you very much for getting on the show.
Absolutely, no problem, Mike.
And if you're ever in the San Diego area, Leo can hook you up with a house. Just let us know. We'll get you his number. He'll hook you up with a nice bungalow. Not a problem. He's multi-talented on his show. Not only on the Sports Box do you come to talk about the Chargers, you sell houses too. That's a damn good career right there. Leo, thank you very much. We very much appreciate it, pal.
All right, no worries, man. Thank you guys for having me.
No problem. And remember, at the Sports Box, we got our series going of coaches that were dismissed and let go. Keep an eye out for it.
Of course, and if you're looking for it, we're on social media everywhere. Twitter at SportsBox Show, Facebook at SportsBox Show. We've seen a really nice uptick in subscribers this week. We want to thank everybody out there subscribing to the show. We do it for you. So if you want to take a second, subscribe to our show. We do a lot of different topics on this show all over the wide world of sports. Make sure that you're keeping up with us and everything that we're doing, because it's really there for you.
And remember, at the Sports Box, the only opinion that still matters, absolutely right here. Thanks for watching, folks. See you.
Don't forget to subscribe.